Long for the cabs to hit the roads here in New York City. I'm Heather Childers. Thank you so much for starting your day and your week with us. Let's get right to that top story for you, though. President Trump keeping his promise to make America great again, fighting for American workers and their jobs.
That's right. Today, the White House kicks off Made in America Week, highlighting U.S. manufacturing. And Griff Jenkins is live in D.C. with more on that. Hey, Griff.
Good Monday morning, Heather and Rob. Products made in all 50 states, including Marine One, made in Connecticut, will be on display as the White House rolls out their Made in America Week, emphasizing American workers and manufacturing. The White House calls it the gold standard. But fallout from the Russia controversy continues to dominate headlines, with the president calling out his favorite target, the fake news media, over the weekend, tweeting, with all of its phony, unnamed sources and highly slanted and even fraudulent reporting, hashtag fake news is distorting democracy in our country. He continued, Hillary Clinton can illegally get the questions to the debate and delete 33,000 emails, but my son Don is being scorned by the fake news media. And after a deluge of stories criticizing the president's son, the president's lawyer, Jay Sekulow, took to the Sunday shows defending him.
What took place during that meeting, even on the basis of these emails as Donald Trump Jr. laid them out, were not violations of a statute. And so when you talk about Russian collusion, colluding to do what? Colluding to violate what law?
But the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, says he can't accept anything the president's son says.
He first said no such meeting ever happened, and then he said the meeting was about adoptions, and then he admitted the meeting was about getting information on Hillary Clinton, and that he wasn't forthcoming about who was in the meeting. So we can't accept anything Don Jr. says.
So the first event of Made in America is at the White House later today, this afternoon at 3, and it continues all week. On Wednesday, a certification event, and finally on Saturday, guys, the commissioning of the USS Gerald Ford. And at that 3 o'clock event today, we'll see if the president takes any questions about any of this.
Yeah, we'd like to hear what he has to say about all of this. Absolutely, Griff. Thanks so much.
And that's, of course, is why he was elected and how he was elected, I think, because he wanted to make America great again.
Yeah, well, and that's and that kind of insular kind of view of this country and kind of focusing on who we are and what we want and not necessarily what the world wants. I think that really was his big push. And I mean, I remember election night when all those blue states, you started seeing them turn red. That was a really big moment in this country. And it was really an indication that, we had not been thinking about our people. And it was so much so that it wasn't even a political thing.
Right.
It was just, these are manufacturers. These are people with blue collar jobs. These are the middle class that hadn't been getting any attention.
And before he even took over in the White House, he made good on some of those promises by bringing jobs back to America, halting some jobs from being moved overseas. And as you were just discussing last week with the G20 summit, a lot of what he's done as he's gone overseas with these foreign trips is to continue to talk about making America great and putting America first. And he's received so much pushback from that.
Yeah, and that's something that it's so funny that, he gets so much grief from others about that mentality. But if you look at every other country in the world, including all of Europe, they all think about themselves first.
Right.
We're the only ones that's expected to think about everybody else before ourselves. I just think that's ridiculous that he gets criticized for that.
And here's a point that Michael Caputo, he's a former Trump campaign manager, had to say about it.
I think they're doing it. I think they've separated the crisis out into an outside unit. I think that's extremely important. We saw that in previous presidencies, that it works. We have to get the wheels rolling so that it works well, but I think they're on their way. I now advise CEOs and business leaders. I have been for many years, and I can tell you the CEOs that I talked to are very pleased with the agenda the president is pursuing on regulatory reform, for example, on energy. He's been extremely successful on natural gas development, even talking about exporting them overseas.
And so you see it is working, as we were just mentioning. And there are numbers that prove it as well. This Wall Street Journal NBC poll, this rates counties that he won in the 2016 election. You can see 50% of people approve of the job that he's doing right now versus 46% who disapprove.
Yeah, and those numbers, it is a bit of a victory there. Not as strong as I think he would like or anybody in the campaign would like. I think, the Russia thing and the constant negative media coverage really is hurting him. The media is never really going to give give them a break. But, these latest revelations are certainly going to be difficult to get past. They need a big victory is what they need. They need to win on something like health care, something like tax breaks, because, at this point, it's all negative.
And the health care vote, which has been delayed again, which we're going to talk a little bit more about and tell you why that's happening.
Yep. All right. Okay, let's move on now to another big story. The Congressional Budget Office will not be releasing their revised score of the GOP health care bill as planned today.
Nope. Senate Republicans now delaying their fight to repeal and replace Obamacare as Senator John McCain recovers from surgery.
That's right. Patty Ann Brown is live here in the studio with the latest. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Rob and Heather. The highly anticipated CBO report on that Senate's revised health care bill was originally set to be unveiled today, but now we're learning that the budget analysis has been delayed. This as Republicans race to generate enough votes to pass the bill through the chamber. A number of Republicans are still on the fence, waiting for that score before pledging their support. The Budget Office analysis of the initial Senate bill had predicted that 22 million fewer Americans would have health insurance coverage by 2026. But Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price says those numbers cannot be trusted.
CBO doesn't even capture those individuals who say to the federal government, I don't want the plan that you think I need. I want the plan that I know I need for myself and for my family. So those numbers are so flawed in terms of what actually happens in the real world.
Well, Republican leaders are now setting their sights on the senators still holding out, continuing their meetings over what changes could be made to win over the holdouts. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, one of the most vocal opponents of the bill, is warning other Republicans not to put their names on it just yet.
This bill keeps most of the Obamacare taxes, keeps most of the regulations, keeps most of the subsidies, and creates something that Republicans have never been for, and that's a giant insurance bailout super fund. The one thing we should do is try to repeal as many of the taxes, as many of the regulations, and as many of the mandates as we possibly can.
Well, meanwhile, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has delayed the Senate vote for at least a week as colleague and fellow Republican John McCain recovers from blood clot surgery. Heather?
All right. Patty Ann Brown, live for us. Thank you. Well, meantime, we have this to tell you about. Officials now investigating after someone broke into a Republican senator's office and left a threatening note. Senator Dean Heller has recently been in the national spotlight, considered a possible swing vote on health care. Well, Heller reportedly on the fence about the GOP's replacement plan. Las Vegas police are not giving any details so far on what that note specifically said.
President Trump's travel ban once again under attack and heading back to the Supreme Court. The state of Hawaii has until tomorrow to respond to the motion filed by the White House that blocked the latest ruling from Hawaii. The DOJ slamming a court for overstepping its bounds by expanding the list of family members of U.S. citizens allowed into the United States to now include grandparents.
And now this Fox News alert, the desperate search intensifying this morning for a missing man after a deadly flash flood swept away a family in Arizona. 9 bodies, including 6 children, have been recovered at this hour, the youngest just 2 years old. And authorities say that 14 people were swimming at a swimming hole at the time when 6 feet high waters from heavy rainfall rushed down out of nowhere.
A guy holding his daughter, a little maybe 1-year-old, and he was stuck in this branch and there was just water going all around him. It was something like, you see in a movie.
So sad. 4 people, though, were rescued and they're expected to be okay.
Hundreds of people turning out to pay their respects at a vigil for 4 young missing men who were found murdered. The tragic events shaking a Pennsylvania community to its core.
So young, they were at the prime of their lives, and it's tragic.
They're almost kids, really. 2 cousins now facing murder charges after investigators found the bodies of all 4 young men who went missing last week. Cosmo DiNardo on the left and Sean Kratz on the right being held without bond. DiNardo confessed to shooting the victims during drug deals at his parents' sprawling farm right outside of Philadelphia. He then tried to burn at least 3 of the bodies before burying them deep into the ground in 2 makeshift graves.
Well, in just hours, a U.S. physician will examine little Charlie Gard, the terminally ill British infant at the center of an emotional worldwide debate. The doctor from New York claims that there is a chance that his experimental treatment could reverse the 11-month-old's brain damage caused by a rare genetic disorder. But a family friend and a spokesperson is slamming authorities for letting it get to this point.
Had they been not ordinary people, but wealthy parents, they could have gone into a private hospital, say in London. Baby Charlie wouldn't have become what is essentially, and these are my words, a prisoner of the state.
Well, the UK's High Court will decide next week whether Charlie Gard can have the treatment or if his life support will be turned off.
All right, Hollywood mourning the loss of two big legends this morning. First, actor Martin Landau, best known for his Oscar-winning role in Ed Wood.
I have no home. Haunted. Despised. Living like an animal.
A fantastic actor. Landau died Saturday after unexpected complications while he was at a hospital in L.A. Aside from his award-winning turn in Ed Wood, he was also known for his starring role in the Mission Impossible TV series.
Yeah. And then horror legend George Romero, famous for bringing zombies to the big screen, has also died.
Think about the trend that he started. All those zombie movies today. Give credit to him. Romero died yesterday after a battle with lung cancer, best known for the 1968 film Night of the Living Dead.
Yes, Martin Landau was 89 years old. George Romero was 77.
They both lived long and great lives and
made a huge difference in the film
industry. They certainly did. They're iconic, All right, let's go over to Janice with a quick check of the weather.
Good morning, Janice. What's going on?
Not a bad weekend for those in the Northeast. We started off rainy, but things have improved, and the temperature's not too bad right now. 73 in New York City, 57 in Chicago, 60 in Denver, 77 in Phoenix, 81 in Tampa. We're expecting rain showers across the Sunshine State today. Let's take a look at it. Past 6 hours, you see some showers and thunderstorms starting to form across the northern plains, upper Midwest, Great Lakes. Also, we have the shift in winds. We call it the monsoon season across the Four Corners, bringing the potential for showers and thunderstorms as well as flooding potential. So we're watching that. Also, taking a look at our future radar, we'll show you across the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, where we're going to start to see the potential for large hail, damaging winds, and heavy rainfall as this storm organizes over the next 12 to 24 hours. Heavy rainfall expected in these regions as well as parts of the Four Corners. We showed that tragic video out of, I believe it was Arizona, New Mexico, Arizona, and that's because we have this shift in the wind direction and that monsoonal weather. So more heavy flooding expected in this region. We'll keep you posted. Back to you.
No, that's not good news as they continue to search for any survivors.
Absolutely.
Janice, thanks so much.
Of course.
All right, tennis star Roger Federer.
Time now is about 13 minutes after the top of the hour. And patriotism under fire. Free agent Colin Kaepernick still unemployed after his fight for freedom. The controversial columnist who says that the national anthem is to blame for why he can't get a job.
Yeah,
seriously? What?
Wait to hear this genius. All right, and also, could the juice soon be loose? OJ, his lawyer, thinks he could be a free man very soon. A Chicago Tribune columnist unleashing an attack on the national anthem in defense of unemployed anthem protester Colin Kaepernick. Diana Ghosh, formerly known as Douglas, writing, quote, "The Star-Spangled Banner is a pompous battle number spurred by a petition bearing 5 million veteran signatures. Congress designated it the national anthem in 1931, but it wasn't until 1942 and our entry into World War II that it was played on loudspeakers daily before our sports games." Former NFL player Burgess Owens will join Fox and Friends later this morning to weigh in on that article, and we'll have to see what he has to say about that. I'm sure that'll be an interesting one. Let's keep talking about this controversial column from a transgender columnist at the Chicago Tribune. Should we still use the Star-Spangled Banner, or is it being used to make money, which is one of the arguments of that column being used for American Pride gear, stuff like that, hats and shirts for the NFL. Log on to the Fox and Friends first Facebook page right after the show for a live debate. Use the hashtag #KeepTalking. Heather, over to you.
Thank you, Rob. Well, a woman honoring 5 Dallas police officers killed in an ambush last summer is running into obstacles trying to keep a mural up in their honor, as she's now waiting on approval to see if it can stay put on a fence that Dallas officials say was built in violation of city code. The metal fence shows officers, you can see it here, carrying a coffin with an American flag draped over it. Well, she tells Fox News that she will keep making modifications until inspectors give her a permit. Let us know what you think about that as well. And another good deed being punished. Have you heard about this? A 70-year-old Army veteran working at Home Depot tries using his military training to stop a trio of shoplifters. You wouldn't think that was a problem, but the intervention cost him his job, one that he says he needs. The former employee throwing a paint roller extension at the suspect's feet, as they tried getting away with thousands of dollars worth of tools. Well, Home Depot defending its decision, saying that it is a store policy not to confront shoplifters. So he's out of a job.
Might want to rethink that policy. All right, Taya Kyle praising the first double amputee soldier to re-enlist in the U.S. Army. The widow of American sniper Navy SEAL Chris Kyle, honoring Special Forces soldier Sergeant Dana Bowman at a rodeo in Wyoming. The hero who lost both of his legs serving our country, parachuting in with a huge American flag. Check that out. Kyle posting pictures on Instagram, writing, "I loved how all the Patriots in Sheridan had their hats off, honoring Sergeant Bowman and the flag as he dropped in." That is something.
It's a great image.
Yeah.
Well, the time now is almost 20 minutes after the top of the hour, and it is every bride's worst nightmare. The bridal chain that just shut down out of nowhere, leaving hundreds of brides scrambling for a dress. What? Well, Fox Business Alert for you now. A popular bridal chain abruptly closing its doors after nearly 80 years in business. And then that left lots of brides-to-be and their wedding parties without any dresses.
And a pure ridiculous panic would ensue. After days of silence, the company finally responding. Tracy Carrasco from our sister network Fox Business here with what they're saying. Hey, Tracy.
Good morning, guys. Brides are a group of people you do not want to mess with. National retailer Alfred Angelo Bridal abruptly closed 60 bridal stores Thursday night after filing for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. The company, whose headquarters is in Delray Beach, Florida, also sells gowns at 1,400 locations. Now, as news sites reported the closing, jilted brides were sent into a frenzy trying to track down those dresses they paid for.
I have 3 months. I can figure something out, but I'm still upset because they paid for something, and I don't know if they're getting a refund. I don't know if they'll get a dress.
Alfred Angelo's website has a brief statement that says, in part, quote, "We apologize for the inconvenience and hardship resulting from this event." What's funny is their competitor, David Bridal, they're offering coupons or discounts to these jilted brides. So taking advantage of that.
What kind of answer is that? Apologize for the inconvenience. Do they get the dress back, or
That's their bankruptcy. I mean, they're protected from. That's why we have bankruptcies to try to get them out of the situation they're in.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go on to pork belly prices going up out of that.
More people eating bacon than getting married, apparently.
Exactly. You know, we've seen bacon on everything from burgers to donuts, and now the bacon craze is pushing U.S. pork belly prices to record highs. Prices for the part of the hog used to make bacon have risen around 80% this year. Americans bought around 14% more bacon at stores in 2016 than in 2013. That's according to market research firm Nielsen. Bacon, which was once considered a more unhealthy byproduct of a hog compared with prize cuts like pork chops and tenderloin, has become really popular in the past decade as more people are eager to embrace it.
Yeah, because it's the friggin' best thing in the world. That's probably why. I love bacon. All right, let's talk about the weekend box office.
Yeah, you know, War for the Planet of the Apes took down Spider-Man Homecoming at the box office, opening this weekend with an estimated $56.5 million in ticket sales. Spider-Man dropped to second with $45.2 million after after making its debut last weekend with $117 million. Now, this is the third film in the Apes series after the Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. So we'll see what happens next weekend when the highly anticipated Christopher Nolan war film Dunkirk comes out. I'm looking forward to that one. Yes.
That looks really good. Yeah.
And we learned last week that Heather cries every time she sees a Planet of the Apes film. So.
They're emotional. And with the, special effects, the apes are real. I'm telling you, they are.
All right. Tracy, thanks so much.
Thanks.
26 minutes after the hour, the health care vote on hold. Republicans still confident, though, they're going to pass a repeal, even without any help from Democrats.
Our Democratic friends are refusing to lift a finger to help their very constituents who are being hurt.
So will the delay buy them enough time to get more people on board? Great again by supporting U.S. workers. President Trump kicking off Made in America Week at the White House today.
Yep. This as the administration continues, though, to rail against the Russia scandals and voice support for Donald Trump Jr. Griff Jenkins is live for us from Washington, D.C. with more on all of this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Heather and Rob. The White House wants to tell you something good. They're rolling out an entire week focusing on that theme, Made in America. It's actually the first of 3 weeks of messaging to refocus the White House's domestic agenda. This week of the focus is on American workers and manufacturing. The White House calls it their gold standard. Products made in all 50 states, including Marine One, which is made in Connecticut, will be on display at the White House today. Then, following on Wednesday, a Made in America certification event will take place, and the whole week concludes on Saturday with the commissioning of the USS Gerald Ford. But fallout from the Russia controversy continues, with the president calling out his favorite target on Twitter, quote, with all of its phony, unnamed sources and highly slanted and even fraudulent reporting, hashtag fake news is distorting democracy in our country. It continues, Hillary Clinton can illegally get the questions to the debate and delete 33,000 emails, but my son Don is being scorned by the fake news media. And after a slew of stories criticizing Don Jr., the president's lawyer, Jay Sekulow, took to the Sunday shows defending him.
What took place during that meeting, even on the basis of these emails as Donald Trump Jr. laid them out, were not violations of a statute. And so when you talk about Russian collusion, colluding to do what? Colluding to violate what law?
But the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, Mark Warner, doesn't believe we're hearing the truth from the president's son.
What we do know is Donald Trump Jr. did not tell the truth a variety of times. I'm not sure why we take anybody in this senior level of the Trump administration at their word.
The Made in America event at 3 p.m. today, guys. We'll see if the president takes any questions about it.
I like how you tied that song in there, though. Tell me something good. Liked
He's
it.
good at that. That's why we like Griff. He's always tying it in. All right, thanks so much.
Thanks. Well, while you were sleeping, South Korea taking a major step to try and reduce tensions with North Korea. Now, the proposal's key focus, discuss ways to avoid hostility or hostile acts near the border and resume family reunions or families separated by their war in the 1950s. North Korea has yet to respond to the offer, which comes amid Kim Jong-un's escalating nuclear threat. So we'll see if that's possible. Iran, meantime, sentencing an American to 10 years in prison on accusations of spying. The government there says that 37-year-old Chinese-American Ziyu Wang gathered information to pass to the U.S. State Department. The Princeton graduate student was arrested last summer while doing research for his PhD dissertation. The State Department is calling for the immediate release of all citizens held unjustly in Iran.
All right, a big story here. The juice could soon be loose. O.J. Simpson's former lawyer, Yael Gallanter, says he thinks that his former client will likely be paroled at his hearing on Thursday. The 70-year-old O.J. Simpson. Now, can you believe it? He has spent 9 years in a Nevada prison for armed robbery and kidnapping. Gallanter says parole in the state is based on how you behave in prison, and O.J. has been a model inmate. If paroled, O.J. Simpson could be free as early as October. All right, 10 people are dead, including a little boy, after a weekend of violence in Chicago. 9-year-old Gustavo Garcia shot and killed riding in a car with his stepfather. An anti-violence activist also gunned down in the city. Willie Cooper shot with an assault rifle near his nonprofit organization that helps teens find jobs. 1,971 people have been shot in Chicago so far, and we're only halfway through this year.
All right, thank you, Rob. And this Fox News alert now. The desperate search intensifying this morning for a missing man after this. A deadly flood swept people away, an entire family, in fact, in Arizona. 9 bodies, including 6 children, recovered at this hour. The youngest, just 2 years old. Authorities say that 14 people were at a swimming hole when 6-feet-high waters from heavy rainfall just rushed out of nowhere. 4 people were rescued, and they are expected to be okay. So that's some good news there. Meantime, a plane packed with passengers burst into flames. This happened just moments after takeoff. What you see here is the terrifying scene as people just run away from the Aeromexico jet in Mexico City. Witnesses say that they heard a loud bang when a tire popped right before going airborne. Fortunately, no one was injured. Passengers were then put on another plane that was bound for Boston.
Okay, time to talk some weather with Janice. And after a beautiful Sunday, I actually went down to the Jersey Shore yesterday and got a little sun on the beach. It was lovely outside. And
Where are the pictures?
You always want these photos, Janice. The beach pictures. Yeah, I took one of the whole beach. It was packed with people. Everybody was out there. Asbury Park is a great little town.
Is he blushing, Heather, a little bit?
Just a little.
Jeez.
Rob blush, never.
Twitter and Instagram. You can follow Rob Schmidt.
There you go.
Yes, indeed. Let's take a look at those current temperatures across the Northeast and the Jersey Shore. Very refreshing. It was a nice weekend for many beachgoers. Cool across the Great Lakes as well. We're going to see the potential for showers and thunderstorms across Florida, the Gulf Coast, and the Southeast, as well as the threat for severe storms, mainly across the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the interior Northeast, as we have this system that's going to organize over the next 12 to 24 hours. And again, a couple of areas where we're going to be watching: upper Midwest, western Great Lakes, and then the interior sections of the Northeast. Mainly the threat of hail, damaging winds, and flooding rainfall, but we do have a slight risk for tornadoes across the upper Midwest. Your highs today, a good beach day across portions of the Gulf Coast as well as the central U.S. Very warm here, 101 in Phoenix as well as L.A., 86 here, 83 degrees here in New York City. Rob, Heather, back to you.
I think we should do the show live from a beach.
Right,
Oh
now
my
you're talking.
gosh, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
It'd be a little dark, but yeah, it could be fun.
I'm in.
Hey, who cares?
Janice, thanks so much.
Janice. Well, an American hero, decorated with the military's highest honor, selflessly gives it away to his entire unit.
I want this to stay here in Vicenza, Italy, with the 173rd, to the men and women that earn this every single day through their selflessness and sacrifice.
Former Army Staff Sergeant Sal Giunta given the award back in 2010 for his heroic actions during an ambush in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
That is something else.
Selfless act there.
Absolutely.
Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour, and President Trump taking aim at the fake news media for distorting democracy and giving Hillary Clinton a pass.
Even on the basis of these emails, as Donald Trump Jr. laid them out, were not violations of a statute. Colluding to do what? Colluding to violate what law?
So is the president right? A fair and balanced debate coming up.
Also playing the blame game. Bernie Sanders' wife under investigation by the FBI for fraud. First, she said it was the Republicans that spurred all this. Now, apparently, it's sexism.
Welcome back to Fox and Friends. First, an unexpected roadblock for health care. The Congressional Budget Office will not be releasing their revised score of the GOP health care bill as planned today.
Yeah, another delay. Senate Republicans now delaying their fight to repeal and replace Obamacare as Senator John McCain recovers from some surgery. Patty Ann Brown live in the studio with the very latest. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Rob and Heather. Well, the highly anticipated CBO report on the Senate's revised health care bill was originally set to be unveiled today, but now that budget analysis has been delayed. This as Republicans race to generate enough votes to pass the bill through the chamber. A number of Republicans are still on the fence, waiting for that score before pledging their support. The Congressional Budget Office analysis of the initial Senate bill had predicted that 22 million fewer Americans would have health insurance coverage in 2026. But Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price says those numbers cannot be trusted.
CBO doesn't even capture those individuals who say to the federal government, I don't want the plan that you think I need. I want the plan that I know I need for myself and for my family. So those numbers are so flawed in terms of what actually happens in the real world.
Republican leaders have been meeting with the senators still holding out, discussing what changes could be made to win them over. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, one of the most vocal opponents of the bill, is urging other Republicans not to put their names on it yet.
This bill keeps most of the Obamacare taxes, keeps most of the regulations, keeps most of the subsidies, and creates something that Republicans have never been for, and that's a giant insurance bailout super fund. The one thing we should do is try to repeal as many of the taxes, as many of the regulations, and as many of the mandates as we possibly can.
Well, meanwhile, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has delayed the Senate vote for at least a week as colleague and fellow Republican John McCain recovers from blood clot surgery. Rob?
And we wish him well. Yeah, Patty Ann, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to Look Who's Talking. And this morning, Senate Majority Whip and Texas Republican John Cornyn slamming the Democrats.
Yeah, he says that they're only hurting their own constituents with their health care obstruction.
Well, health care is hard, and we know that, but we have no choice to try to come to the rescue of the millions of people who are being failed as a result of the problems with Obamacare. And yes, unfortunately, it's become a partisan issue, and our Democratic friends are refusing to lift a finger to help their very constituents who are being hurt. But I think Republicans have made repeated promises in elections leading up to now that we would and we could do better, and I believe we will do better. This bill actually, I think, has gotten much better as a result of the discussions we've had amongst ourselves, and I think it's something that once we agree to, that we can sell to the American people as a better choice than the failures of Obamacare.
Yeah, coming to that agreement, though, is tough.
Yeah. HBO Go is the first death of season 7.
Ouch. And another one offering some words of encouragement, though, writing, I'm saying a prayer for you. HBO Go server tech team, you can do it. So,
I mean, the show, I'm sure it's incredible.
Premiere, though,
yeah,
wow.
It's an investment.
Have you seen the show?
I've seen one episode. The episodes are very long. It was a very good episode, but I don't have, I'd have to quit my job to keep up with all this TV.
I haven't seen it. Brian Kilmeade, have you seen it?
I just want to know how many jobs you have to quit in order to watch all the television you need to watch.
Binge watch.
The only thing I like people to do is to DVR our show and then binge watch that.
Yes,
every Friday. Yeah. Hey, let me tell you what's coming up over the next 3 hours. David Bossi's going to be joining us. He has spoken to the president. He's going to tell us what's in the mind of the administration as they look to get things done, as suddenly the health care plan looks like it's going to be on the shelf as Senator McCain gets his medical questions answered. And we're going to be joined by Congressman Sean Duffy and his wife, Rachel Campos Duffy. They're going to be here talking to us live. And Stuart Varney on the economy, how we get things really on track. What Jamie Dimon says last week that might be able to spur some change in America. Are we being looked down upon around the world because we can't get out of our own way? We'll discuss all that. Don't miss a minute of Fox and Friends. I beg of you, please put something on.
All right, welcome back. Bernie Sanders' wife now blaming the FBI probe into her alleged bank fraud on sexism. Jane Sanders crying foul on the man who originally filed this complaint, sparking the investigation, telling the Boston Globe, quote, I find it incredibly sexist that basically he's going after my husband by destroying my reputation, and that's not okay. Sanders accused of illegally obtaining a loan as president of a now defunct college that she once oversaw. All right, even Democrats think their own party can't win. Former campaign manager for President Clinton, James Carville, very intelligent man, expressing doubt that his party will win back the Senate in 2018, saying it's because the party is without a leader.
If a party is out of power and we don't have a presidential candidate, there's no one going to be in charge until sometime in 2020.
Carville says there's a 50% chance that they take the House back, but says the chances for taking back the Senate are substantially lower than half. Heather.
Thank you, Rob. Well, President Trump slamming the fake news double standard, calling out the media for going after Donald Trump Jr. and giving Hillary Clinton a pass. You can see one of his tweets there. So is the president right? Is the media distorting democracy? Here to debate is former DNC senior advisor Zach Pecanis and columnist for the Washington Times, Madison Geziato. Thank you both for joining us this morning.
Thanks. Great to be with you.
So, Madison, I'll start with you. And one simple question, why are we still talking about this?
Right. I mean, and this is what we've seen for over the past 100 days. President Trump has received the most hostile press coverage of any president in the United States history. And similar to what we saw with Ivanka at the G20, we're now seeing Don Jr. being criticized largely because he's President Trump's son. If it were any other person in this meeting with someone who happened to be Russian and nothing came of the meeting, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah, let's take a look at one of those other tweets that came out from President Trump. In another tweet, he said, with all of its phony, unnamed sources and highly slanted and even fraudulent reporting, hashtag fake news is distorting democracy in our country. So, Zach, what do you think? You disagree?
I absolutely disagree. I mean, I'm not sure where the anonymous sources are here. The reason we know that Donald Trump Jr. lied about whether he had the meeting and the content of the meeting is because he himself released the email. We're reading the email and we find out that not only he lied, but President Donald Trump lied. Vice President Mike Pence lied when he said that the members of their campaign did not have communications with those connected with the Russian government. That is just not true. And the reason we know that is because Donald Trump Jr. himself released the email.
He released the emails because there was an anonymous source who released the information to the New York Times, and the New York Times then contacted Donald Trump Jr., correct?
Well, it clearly weren't wrong, and it wasn't fake news because it was backed up by the real email, right? So that kind of undermines the president's point.
Madison, but he released the emails because he believed he had nothing to hide, and that in what he claims, he just simply forgot about this meeting, and it wasn't of any significance anyway.
Right. The meeting had absolutely no significance. Once again, I want to reiterate the point that if this were anyone else, specifically a Democrat, we wouldn't be having this conversation. The media is in the pocket of the Democrats, and we can even look right to the study released by Harvard in May showing that, let me quote this, Trump has received unsparing coverage for most weeks of his presidency without a single major topic where Trump's coverage on balance was more positive than negative, setting a new standard for unfavorable coverage of a president. You know, over 80% negative coverage in his first 100 days and over 96% on some topics like immigration and his personal background. And I think this is just unacceptable.
And then beyond all of this, Zach, if you listen to Jay Sekulow, one of the president's attorneys, he says, bottom line is, what about it was illegal? In his opinion, nothing.
Well, I mean, first off, that's for the special counsel to decide, not for Donald Trump's lawyer to decide. And I think there's plenty of evidence that suggests that this is potentially part of a larger pattern that could be something that is illegal. But I'd also like to point out that it is not just the liberal media or the mainstream media that is talking about how this meeting is really bad for the Trump administration. It's a conservative columnist, Charles Krauthammer, who's a Fox News contributor, who says that this is not only evidence of collusion, but cannot be called fake news because Donald Trump himself, Jr. himself, released the email.
Yeah, I think a lot of the concern from the conservative media and other conservatives is that that this was left out in terms of information, that the meeting actually happened to begin with, not that the meeting itself was illegal. Thank you both for joining us. So appreciate it this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right.